Hey folks, welcome to Life After Addiction and Indictment. Today I've got a gentleman that I'm very excited to talk with and learn from. He's known for his Firewalk adventures. He did the Firewalk seminars for Tony Robbins for, I believe, just about 20 years. And he's also got a great story of when he was younger and dealing with alcohol and drugs. So I'm excited to kind of get into that and see what we can learn from this gentleman today. So I want to welcome Dave Albin to the show. How you doing today, Dave?
Hey, Steve, I'm really excited to be here. You know, when you asked me to come, I knew this one was, I do a lot of podcasts, but I knew this one was going to be real special. So thanks for asking me.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. I just appreciate you taking the time to do it. You know, it's like I always say, I do this honestly for fun, but when I get into it, like there's really nothing I enjoy more. If it just, if we touch just one person, to me, it's all worth it,
Absolutely.
And so
100%.
Well, awesome. Well, let's kind of get into it. Let's maybe give us a little bit of background on how you grew up and when you started, messing around with drugs or alcohol and
Sure.
kind of how that evolved and what happened in your life.
So what happened, if I go to the very beginning, my biological mother was known as Rosie the Riveter, which meant that during World War II, she built airplanes like a lot of women.
Oh,
the
wow.
men went off to war, right? And the women built the tanks and the trucks and the Jeeps and the planes, and they did everything back home. So my mother worked for McDonnell Douglas, and she built airplanes. And wow. after the war and all that, she met my dad, who was a pilot in Korea. And 2 months before I was born, my dad, something had happened to my biological father. I don't know exactly what happened, but what I know, Steve, is that they put a plate in his head to save his life. He was having a lot of pain. He had hit his head. He'd done something. And again, they did it to save his life. Well, it also took his life. 2 months before I was born, he had been talking to my mom. He didn't know how much longer he could take it. And he said to her one day, "Hey, I'm going to the grocery store," and they never saw or heard from him again. So I know little to nothing about my biological father. So the position that put my mom is, she was actually working as a server at that time at the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood, California. Okay. And she couldn't afford me. I mean, it was economics all the way. She had two other sons who were my stepbrothers from a different father. And one day she said, "I need to put my son up for adoption." Well, the good news is that her sister, my aunt, and my uncle adopted me at the age of 5.
Wow.
And when they adopted me, they had both drank, like we say, socially.
Yeah.
But they did stop at the moment they adopted me. Now, I was living in Hollywood up until that point, and then I was transferred to Long Beach, California, where they had a house there in Long Beach, east side of Long Beach. And about 5 to 6 years later, when I'm around 11 years old, they had picked up drink. They started to drink again. And then in the summer of 1964, the summer of 1964, this is after Kennedy was assassinated. Yeah. My dad was military. He was an officer, highly decorated, worked in the Pentagon during Vietnam. And they set me down the first day of summer and they said, "David, we have something to tell you." Well, I was thinking they were going to tell me we were going to go camping, because we did that a lot. We went to Yosemite and Big Bear and Lake Arrowhead. We went a lot of places. Uh-huh. And so I'm like, "Oh, cool. We're going to, where are we going this summer?" Right. And next thing I know, my mom puts her hand on my hand and with tears in her eyes, she said, "David, what we need to tell you is we're not your parents." Well, now, when you're 11 years old, what the hell does that mean, right? You're a kid. Kidding. You don't even know how to process that, right?
When you said that your dad, like you never saw him again, your biological dad,
right?
You don't know if your mom doesn't know if he died or anything. You just never came home.
All we know is that he had told her many times he couldn't stand the pain, didn't know how much longer you could be able to take it. So the only assumption she could make from that is that he never showed up again, never saw him again. So we assume that he committed suicide.
Right, but no body ever was found or anything.
No, we don't. We knew nothing from that.
That had to be so difficult.
It was very difficult on her.
Yeah, but it was very difficult on her. It had to be. Yeah.
Right. And something very enlightening happened about that, because I chased that for a long time.
Yeah. I'll
Even
bet.
though the man that adopted me, Bob, who was my uncle by birth, or excuse me, by marriage, he was not my biological father. So that ran around in my head for a long time.
Did you grow up, calling him dad once
Oh, yeah.
you were adopted and
Oh,
all
yeah.
that, right? Yeah.
Yep. He was definitely my dad.
Okay.
And then that day did change because the day they told me that I was adopted, the drinking escalated like almost immediately. And
Wow.
I didn't really know what was going on. I'd never really seen him drink like that before at all.
Jeez.
And so one day they left. Back in those days, you could leave your kids home.
Right.
Right. You
Yeah.
had neighbors that would say, hey, call Joanne across the street. Hey, Joanne, we're going to Bob and I are going to the grocery store. David's at home. If he needs you, can he come over? Oh, yeah, of course. So
Yeah. Doors unlocked, the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You weren't worried about it. You left your doors unlocked. I mean, it was just, that was a whole different way of life than what we have today. And so when they left, I knew where the booze was because I'd watched them go over to the cabinet and they were taking it in and out of the cabinet. Yeah. So I'm like, I want to know these two wonderful people. What happened, Steve, is these two wonderful people turned into instant, they turned into jerks.
They get mean and belligerent when you're drinking. Yeah.
Yeah. It just escalated so quickly. So I went over to the cabinet and I opened it up and I pulled out this big old bottle of brandy. And I went, wow, well, what is this stuff? And I poured some in a cup and I drank it. I drank a half a cup of brandy at 11 years old. And I was done. Stick a fork in me. I was an alcoholic on the spot. I never had a chance.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so exhilarating, right? It was like, that first drink with some of us take as alcoholics, it's like pouring rocket fuel in your body. That's
exactly right.
Right. So at that point, I'm in. That's it. I'm all in on alcohol. I'm hiding it, chasing it, stealing it. From that point on, I kept going after alcohol. That led to drugs. You get into your teens. Next thing you know, you're hanging with the wrong people. It didn't take long before a few years that I was dealing with hard drugs, alcohol. Obviously alcohol, but cocaine, heroin, all of it, cigarettes. And I didn't find help until June 8th of 1988. And once I got there, I got kicked out of high school. I was hanging around pimps and prostitutes and drug addicts and drug dealers and gangs and guns and, all of that wonderful stuff that goes with addiction. Right.
Yeah.
And then one day I woke up and I said, that's it. We're done. I'm out of here. The emotional and the physical and the spiritual pain was at a point where I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm out.
Sick and tired of being really sick and tired.
I'm sick and tired of really being sick and tired. So I went and loaded my pistol. I put it in my mouth. And just as I'm getting ready to pull the trigger, the thought came in. I was married to a woman who had 3 kids. And I thought, oh, man, when I pull this trigger, I'm in the basement, by the way. And when I pull this trigger, my brains are going to be all over the place, and they're going to see that and witness that. And didn't know what PTSD was, but it would have caused all the trauma. It would have permeated through school. I'm thinking, you know what? That's not right. You self-centered asshole. You can't do that.
Wow.
And I was beating up on myself for that. It was like, no, it's not fair. You can't do that to them. So then I thought, we'll go out into the woods and do it out there away from the house. And I remember thinking, but still, they're still going to have to do it. It's, the school's going to find out. It's going to be really, really rough on them. Yeah. And then I don't know. I didn't know who AA was. And the next thing I know, it popped in my head. Well, call Alcoholics Anonymous. And I remember thinking later after I called AA going, how did you even know AA existed? I didn't even know. How did I know that? And so this is on June 8th of 1988, picked up the phone, called AA. They sent someone to come get me. Unreal. And I had a woman on the phone that when I called that was answering the phone for Intergroup at the time, and her name was Madge. And Madge talked like this. She was probably smoking 3 packs of small non-filter cigarettes a day. And she was brutal, Steve. She was on me. She was in my face. Do you have a desire to stop drinking? I'm not going to send somebody to come get you if you're not serious. And man, she was drilling me. And so I guess she heard enough from me, and she sent a guy to come pick me up, and he took me to an AA, the AA group that I started at. It's called the Stepping Stones Groups of Alcoholics Anonymous in Herndon, Virginia. and it was an all men's group. And
Okay.
the house at that time was sitting on 5 acres. And it was visited by a lot of people from Washington, 3-letter groups,
Yeah.
agencies. And so we had a very interesting, very diverse group there. And I went to 4 meetings that day. He got me to the 12:30 meeting, and that we had another one at 4:30, 6:30, and 8:30. So I had 4 meetings on day one. And of course, they gave me the 24-hour chip. They gave me the big book. They signed it. They gave me Living Sober book. They gave me all of it. They knew I was a sick kid, and they knew that I'd already put a gun in my mouth that morning. And so they knew that I needed a lot of help. And so they all reached out to me. Well, the following morning, around 8:30 in the morning, my phone rings. This is on day 2.
Yeah.
And it's John from the Stepping Stones, right? He goes, "Hey, good morning. How you doing?" And I'm like, "How do you think I'm doing? I want to drink. I want to kill somebody."
Yeah.
It's like, I'm miserable. Holy crap. I'm crapping myself. I'm miserable. He goes, "Great. I'll come get you." Right. And he came and picked me up and took me to a meeting that next day. And then, 2 days turned into 3, and then 3 turned into a week, and a week turned into a month. And I got my month chip, and then I got a chip for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And then I got the 1-year chip, and I'm doing anything and everything these men are telling me.
Yeah.
If they didn't tell me to do it, I didn't do it. I got a sponsor. I was working the steps. I was calling people in the program every day. I was all in, man.
Yeah.
I was total immersion, because I knew that if I didn't, I wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
And you know how these guys are in AA, man. These guys were just all over me.
Yeah.
And they were some of the most incredible human beings to this day that I've ever met in my entire life.
Hey, that's it. I've often talked about AA because, I grew up in a religion for 47 years of my life, and it was so eye-opening to me and such a beautiful experience at AA, because there's all walks of life, and there's no judgment. There's just nothing but really truly sincere love. And, you see people who relapse and then come back, and everybody's with open arms. There's no judgment or shaming or, and I compare that. And, I'm not here to beat on religion, because I think it's fairly common for humans, but, you go into a church meeting on a Sunday, and there's all that bullshit that shouldn't be there, that AA really shows you how things should be. And it's just, it was just an incredible experience. I mean, there's guys I'm still close to this day from, going to meetings 20 years ago.
Yeah.
There's really nothing like it. I wouldn't have made it had I not had that support.
Nope. I wouldn't have either.
Yeah.
And now the group that I was in, it was all men, and they were pretty brutal.
Oh yeah.
They were, in the Washington, D.C. area around the Beltway, right? Virginia and Maryland and D.C. The Stepping Stones group was known. Like, oh man, don't go over there.
It's just hardcore.
You're not that sick. It's kind of a thing, right? And these guys were brutal. They would sit you, they were, it was obviously, it was, as you said, it was presented in love, but they were pretty brutal. They were step Nazis. There was no doubt about it. They were like, here's the package deal. Don't drink, pray every day, come to meetings, get a sponsor, work the steps, and total immersion here. And
they know that it works. And if guys are going to be messing around playing games, and they don't want to waste their time, they're just
it wasn't
after
just that. It was like, these guys were, I started golfing with them and going to picnics and hanging out with these guys. Were some happy sons of bitches, man. These guys were great. They had this happy, joyous, free, mindset. And they were just like, I want that. Yeah. That's what I want. And they said, fine, if you want what we have and you're willing to go to any length to get it, we'll give it to you. And so that made sense to me. So everything about AA resonated with me. And so again, I was all in. And of course, coming up in June, that'll be 35 years. I haven't had a drink or a drug. Well,
congratulations. That's one hell of an accomplishment.
Well, thank you. And it's, it's one day at a time.
That's it.
And it's, if you want it, and you're willing to work for it, AA will give it to anybody. I believe that, because I was grossly addicted to heroin and cocaine and alcohol.
Yeah.
So that's different.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
one thing if it's just alcohol.
One drug or alcohol, yeah.
And it's, literally for 2 years, I can't tell you how many times I was in the bathroom throwing up, crapping my pants, curled up in a ball, sweating it out. I should have gone to rehab.
Yeah, you're lucky to be here talking to me. Honestly,
well, that's true.
Frankly,
on many levels, I'm lucky to be here.
Yeah.
The guys did tell me. They said, "Look, go squeeze orange juice, freshly squeezed orange juice. Drink a lot of orange juice. Drink a lot of water. Excuse me, and eat a lot of chocolate to help with your blood sugar." So I did that. I drank a lot of cranberry juice, and I started eating well. And again, I started hanging around with these dudes every single chance I could get.
Yeah.
And what AA did is it also introduced me to the personal development industry. And how that came about was I was up late at night all the time. I had insomnia. Hell, I couldn't sleep. My sleep patterns were all over the place, Steve. Hell, I didn't know what time it was half the time for the first couple of years.
Yeah.
They say in AA, the first 3 years are the spiritual, the emotional, and the physical recovery. And that sure held true for me.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was all over the place. Well, one night I'm up late and I'm watching an infomercial. And there he is. Now, some of these people may not know who it is. You can look him up. His name's Tony Robbins. He's a very famous motivational speaker, been around a long time.
How old were you at this time?
I was, that was in my first couple of months of sobriety.
Oh, wow.
Right. Jeez. So it was early on. I watched him. I watched the infomercial probably in the late fall because I got sober in June. So by the time fall came around, I think that's when I saw his first infomercial. So it was probably August, September that I saw him on his infomercial.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stand this guy. I was like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. What a pompous, he's all motivated.
Yeah.
But he said a couple of things that got me. One, he said, we'll do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. Boy. And I went, okay, that makes a lot of sense because that's all I did with alcohol and drugs. Yeah. I was chasing pain and pleasure. I was trying to avoid pain, gain pleasure, avoid pain. And then, of course, obviously we get to a point where it doesn't do either. It completely abandons us, right? We're not getting anything from it. And then he said, the driving force in our life is we're motivated out of inspiration or desperation.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh, man, I'm desperate. So he got me there. So I ended up he was selling a program, obviously, and it was called Personal Power, and it was a 30-day program. And to date this thing, it came on little white things called cassette tapes.
Yep, I own them too.
Right? So there it was, man. He sent it to me, and I unboxed it. And I went through the tapes, and I did exactly what that man taught me to do. And guess what?
Awesome.
It worked. Well, I ended up loaning because I started making changes in the personal development side. And when you take personal development and AA and you bring them together, it's really a magical thing.
Yeah.
I never substituted personal, right? Yeah. I never substituted personal development for AA. I separated them. But man, when they came together, it really catapulted me forward. Yeah. Well, a couple of the guys in AA are like, dude, what's going on with you, man? There's something different about you. And I said, Tony Robbins, I read his book and I went to his program. And so I had a really good buddy of mine, AA, had about a year and a half on me. And I loaned him my program. I loaned him the tapes and he went through them too. And then he ended up reading the book. Well, hell, 7 years later, in 1995, Dan calls me on the phone. And he said, hey, dude, Tony Robbins is coming to town. He goes, you got me into this. Come on, man, go with me. I want to go see this guy. And I said, yeah, absolutely. I'll go. Look, check my calendar. It was all good. He goes, great. I'll call you back. I'll make the arrangements. Because back then you did business differently, right?
Right. A lot different. Yeah.
So he called, he made the arrangements, he paid for it. And he calls me back an hour later. He goes, hey, dude, done. We're in. And here's what they told us to do. One, bring snacks. You're going to spend a lot of time in a room. Hydrate. Drink a lot of water. You're going to need to be hydrated. He said, bring a good attitude and be ready to play full out. I said, Dan, how much was the ticket? He said, $700. I'm like, what? $700? I mean, that's like $7,000 now,
back
right?
Then, yeah, that was huge.
And I go, okay, it's all right. I'm good. I'm good. I said, I'd go. I'll do it. I'll pay you back. He goes, yeah, pay me back when you can. I go, no, I'll pay you back, like tomorrow. And so he goes, oh, by the way. So he's getting ready to hang up, right? He goes, oh, by the way. We're going to be doing a firewalk.
Wow.
And I was like, what? I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, hell no. No. no, we're not doing that. I'll go, but I'm not doing that. Now, I'm not going to tell Dan that because I don't want him to think that I'm wussing out. But I've made a decision right now. I'm not going to do it. And here's what's really interesting about that, Steve. I didn't know what the hell a firewalk even was.
Yeah.
So I'm saying no to something that I don't even know what it is. Right.
Yeah.
But, we're driven by fear, right? Forget everything and run, right? There's the acronym. And so AA and the personal development started to teach me, well, maybe it's face everything and rise. You know what we say in AA, right? False images appearing real.
That's right.
So it's the day of the event. We get there, we check in, and Tony takes the stage at 2:00 in the afternoon. And the next thing Dan and I know, it's after midnight. We've been in a room for 10 hours with Tony freaking Robbins. And, it's all the setup for the firewalk. Well, all of a sudden, a little after midnight, Tony goes, take your shoes off. Wow. I'm like, oh, hell, here we go. I'm like, no. I'm not taking my shoes off. You're not going to trick me, mister. And all of a sudden I go, but wait a minute. If all these other people take their shoes off, and by the way, I'm with 3,500 people. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a big
small
event,
room.
right? And so I'm like, but if I don't take my shoes off walking out there, they're going to know, and we can't have that. So I'll just take my shoes off and fake it. So I take my shoes off. Well, hell, when you get outside, here's where it really gets interesting too, is Tony's got you chanting walking out there. So everybody's walking out there, clapping their hands going, yes, yes, yes. And so you're like, oh boy, here we go. Right. And when you go outside, he takes you out of this huge parking lot. Well, over in the corner, they built this fire, and it's huge. It's probably 30 feet wide and 60 feet long. And they started it early in the day, and it's been burning all day. And so it just burns down and it renders.
Nothing but coals.
And it's just a big, giant pile of coals. I mean,
wow.
There's a pile of coals that are probably 4 feet tall. And so what they do is they shovel those coals into wheelbarrows. And then when they fill a wheelbarrow, then they bring a wheelbarrow out into, and they stage a wheelbarrow in between two things of sod. A lane, if you will. And they're about 3 feet wide and about 15 to 18 feet long. And then they just take a flathead shovel and they shovel the coals on top of that grass, on top of that sod, and you walk on top of them. So that's how they did it. Well, they needed a bunch of those because they got 3,500 people. You can't walk 3,500 people on 2 lanes. They must have had 20 some lanes, right? Jeez. And so I'm like, all right, so I'm not doing this. Well, and you know what else he's got out there?
Course creators, say goodbye to intimidating software and eliminate multiple subscriptions and say hello to Backbone. Backbone helps course creators thrive with their all-in-one, easy-to-use sales and marketing platform. Backbone gives you all your automation in one place to capture, nurture, and turn more leads into customers. With Backbone, you get unlimited courses, membership sites, funnels, landing pages, surveys, and forms with our easy-to-use drag-and-drop features. That's not all. Backbone provides a full CRM and pipeline management, two-way SMS, workflow automations, call tracking, full analytics, built-in AI, 24/7 support, and so much more. Stop paying for multiple tools and put more money in your pocket with Backbone. Just go to backbonelms.io now to get your free 14-day trial. Backbone supports letthemlive.org to help defend the defenseless by donating 5% of each subscription every month. Jump over to backbonelms.io now to start your free trial today.
African drummers.
Oh, wow.
Right? So it's dun, 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 and you're like, oh, God. Everybody's yes. And you're walking out there 10 hours in a room with Tony. And so I decide, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go hide in the back. Real simple. No one's going to know. 3,500 people. No one's going to know except me.
That's right. The most important.
So I go hide in the back. Well, guess what? That's not a very good strategy. Why? Because Tony's people know where all the cowards are.
That's right.
He doesn't want you not to do this. He knows this is a life-changing paradigm shift experience. It's off the chain. Firewalking's been around a couple thousand years. It's been used in a whole bunch of different ways, cultures, rite of passage, graduations, weddings. I mean, you name it. It's been used even to see if you're lying. So it's been around a long time. And Tony knows that. He knew that going into it, right? So I'm hiding out in the back, and here he comes. Let me go find Dave Albin. I know he's back there hiding somewhere. And sure enough, here comes this dude, Steve, and he makes eye contact with me. Well, Tony must teach him, don't take your eyes off him once you make eye contact with him. Just, lock eyes.
Yeah.
And this guy's locked eyes with me. Here he coming. And I'm thinking, oh, dude, don't even think about it. I'm in a mood right now. I'll kill you. I'll waste you, man. I don't even think about it. And so he gets about 20, 25 feet from me, and he kind of bends down and kind of looks at me like, he's like, are you okay? And when we're not okay, what do we say?
Yeah, just fine.
Oh, no, I'm fine, man. We're all good here, brother.
Yeah.
Hit the road. We're good. I'm good here. And all of a sudden he goes, oh, good. He goes, so, hey, are you going to walk tonight? And I looked at him and leaned into him and I said, absolutely not. Like, are you kidding me? And he goes, hey, dude, that's cool. He said, no problem. He goes, we don't want you to do anything you don't want to do. And I went, wow, all right. I like this guy. He's going to get me out of here.
Right.
And then he tricked me. Well, and kind of tricked me. He said, well, hey, let me ask you something. I mean, wouldn't you at least like to watch? Now I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I'd go with that. I'd like to watch these people burn their feet off. Let's do that. And he said, well, listen, man, you're 100 yards away. You can't see anything from back here. Now he's telling the truth. I mean, in his own defense, he said, just get in line and eventually you'll get up there close enough. You'll be able to see it.
Setting you up.
All right. He's telling the truth.
Yeah.
Because I got 3,500 people in front of me, Steve. I can't see anything. I can see the fire over here burning and the glow of it and all that. And so, but I can hear it obviously because the drums are dun, 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 and everybody's chanting, yes, yes. So the ambiance of the whole thing is intense.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
So I just get in line and I'm kind of walking along. And all of a sudden this guy comes up to me and he kind of loudly whispers in my ear. He goes, he knows when you're ready. When he says go, you go. And I went, what? And he just disappeared into the night. Like, what was that? And so I'm walking along and all of a sudden I still can't see in front of me, but I can see at an angle, right? And I'm looking over there and I'm going, oh my God, look at this. They're actually doing this. Every walk of life, men, women, every creed, every color person, they're all walking. And I'm thinking, my brain's freaking because I've never seen anything like this. So I have no reference for this, right?
Right.
And I'm just kind of going, what the hell? Why are they doing this? What's motivating them? What's the metaphor for? I mean, my brain is looking for answers and it's not finding anything. And right now I'm mesmerized because I'm staring at these people. And next thing I know, boom,
you're there.
I am. Guess where I am? Front of the line. And I'm looking down at the coals, right? And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. They're bright red. There's a wheelbarrow there. You can feel the heat coming off. And my heart is coming out of my chest. And I am staring into the abyss. And there's a trainer standing there. And all of a sudden he goes, eyes up. Oh, shit, that's right. Eyes up. 10 hours in the room for Tony. Guess what he teaches you to do? Keep your eyes up. Don't stare at what you fear. Look to the celebration. Look to the end. And so,
Awesome.
So I'm a slow learner, apparently. Right. And so now my eyes are up and he goes, squeeze your fist and say yes. And I went, yes. And he went stronger. And I went, yes. And so he could tell I wasn't in a peak state. I was holding back. Right.
Yeah.
And so he got like right in my face, Steve. And he goes, stronger. And like, now I'm pissed. Right.
Yeah,
exactly. And I threw my hands in the air and I screamed at the top of my lungs, yes. And he goes, go, go, go. I took off. Well, he positions two people at the end of the lane who lock arms and catch you. And they're like, stop, wipe your feet and celebrate. And I'm kind of stopped and I'm wiping my feet. And all of a sudden I look back and I'm like, holy, what the hell? I just walked on coals that were 1,000 degrees. And all of a sudden I realized I burnt myself really bad. And I look at my foot. I look at my left foot and it's dirty, but there's no burns.
Nothing.
Oh, it's my other foot. It's burnt really bad. I look at it it's dirty, but there's no burns. And so now I'm in total disbelief. I just walked on coals that are 1,000 degrees. I have no idea how I did it. Ever done that? Ever done something really cool off the wall and you go, wow, I did that. And I don't know how I did it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, that's what it felt like. Now, here's the first thing I learned about firewalking, by the way. When you take that first step, you'll take the second, third, fourth, and fifth. I absolutely guarantee you're not going to stop. And, metaphorically, that's what's so powerful about life, because we stop ourselves, right? But when we take that first step, whatever it is, start a new business, ask that girl to, go out, or that, whatever it is, have a child, you take that first step. And that's really metaphorically how life is. Well, that night was literally one of the most exhilarating times of my entire life. There was nothing like it. But the next day is where it got really, really interesting for me. So this is a 4-day event. That was day one, right? Yeah. So Tony does the firewalk to get you leverage. Because if you can walk on fire, the question is, what else can you do?
Yeah. Interesting.
So you're there. And I come into the next morning, and there we are. 3,500 people standing in the foyer, getting ready to go into the venue. Never saw or witnessed anything like it in my life.
Jeez.
People were so humanistic. Their level of consciousness was up here. It was so freaking high. They were talking, they were communicating, they were laughing, they were crying, they were sharing their experience. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Look at this. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
And so now I'm going, so was it the firewalk? Is that what created this morning? Well, absolutely it was, because we had all shared something that is, it's almost like a near-death experience.
Yeah, or exceeds what you believe you can do.
That too, right? And so it was everything.
Yeah.
It was like, we just all experienced something that was probably one of the top 10, top 5 experiences of our life, and we did it collectively. So you bring all that energy together.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why it's such a powerful experience.
Yeah.
Because if you got people that aren't getting along, okay, fire will fix it.
Yeah.
Fire doesn't care. Fire doesn't care what you think or what you believe or what's going on in your life. It transforms you right there on the spot. And again, culturally, that's why the Native American Indians used it, the Tahitians, the people of India, the Polynesians, the Hawaiians, the Indo-Europeans. The Indo-Europeans used firewalking before the men would go into battle. So they would do the ceremony that night. And if you didn't firewalk, you weren't allowed to go.
Didn't go, yeah.
Right. So you dishonored your family. So it's powerful. Well, that's all it took for me. That next day I experienced it, and I'm like, okay, I want more information. Well, what I found out is that Tony uses about 300 volunteers at every event.
Yeah.
Inside and outside. He uses about 60 people outside to build the fire and take care of all that. So I found out later you could call Robbins Research, Tony's company, you could sign up. And if you filled out the application and they saw something in you, they would invite you to come crew. And I did that. I contacted them. They sent me the letter. I filled out all the info. I sent it back. Sure enough, I got a letter in the mail that said, congratulations, you've been selected to crew with Tony Robbins in Fort Lauderdale. And that's how my career started. So that was in late 95, early 96.
So let me ask you a question real quick.
Yeah, sure.
When you chose to do that, did you have an intention, and was that intention that you wanted to be around that environment more, or what were you thinking?
It was a little bit of everything.
You just knew you just knew the power that if you were around that, there was going to do more for you.
Right. It was transformational, right? For me personally.
Oh, yeah.
So wouldn't it be cool to go be around that?
Yeah.
Right. Like, total immersion, if you will, to be around that environment and that like-minded people.
Yeah.
And so, I was like, wow, this is really going to be awesome. Well, what's interesting too, is that when I went through Tony's program back in, the 80s, and I went through his tape program and I worked it and it worked for me. I remember thinking, wow, wouldn't it be cool to meet this guy someday? Just be walking down the street and say, hey, Tony Robbins. Hey, Dave Albin, man. Hey, bro, thank you. I went through your program. It worked. That's all.
Let alone working for 19 years for him.
Well, the next thing you know, there I am. Well, because I had a military and a security background, I got asked to help with some of his celebrities.
Okay.
And as luck and fate would have it, I also got put on the fire building team. And I fell in love. I had a lot of background in, at the time I lived on a farm. So I knew how to split wood, and, I knew a lot of stuff. I had tools and farming, tractors and all this kind of stuff. Right.
Yeah.
So I knew some of that. So I was a great fit for the fire building team. And in 1996, I got recruited as a subcontractor to join Tony's security detail. And I was also on the fire building team. And I loved the fire building team a lot more than the security detail, just to be candid about it. I loved them both. And the fire building team was the secret sauce for me. It was my it literally became my superpower. And then shortly after that, I became the assistant captain on the fire building team. And then in 2003, Tony offered me the captain's position, which meant that I would travel the world with him, and I would be in charge of all of his firewalks, both domestically and internationally. And I originally was going to decline the offer because I homeschooled my kids. And what Tony did is he said, well, what if I pay to have your family travel with me?
Wow.
And I went, well, that would be pretty cool.
Damn.
Homeschool them and take them around the world.
Oh, yeah. You can't beat that.
What parent wouldn't want to do that? So we did. And we went. In fact, my son, once I got offered the position, my son's like, so Dad, where's our first event? He's like 9 years old, right?
Wow.
I said, Sydney, Australia. So there we were, 2003. My family and I are on the road full time with Tony Robbins. Well, to fast forward that, we Tony and I set a world record in 2005 in London. We firewalked 12,300 people.
How long did it take to do that?
A little over an hour.
That's it?
Yep.
How many lanes did you have?
34.
Wow. So just
it's fast. When people are walking, man, they're going. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
There's no lollygagging here. They're like boom, 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 boom.
For those for the listeners, you mind if we get into a little bit of kind of psychology so they can, because a lot of people are going to say, they don't get it. How can that even happen?
Exactly.
What's happening that allows the body so that it doesn't get burned, A lot
of that, I believe, has to do with your mindset. I tell people, look, when you go out to that fire, you better give it 100%. You better give it all of your attention. I say all the time that a fire is like a woman. So you better pay attention, men. Because when does a woman want your attention? All the time. Right. You better give it to her. Well, the fire's kind of that way. Don't go out there and think, this is done. This is some dog and pony trick. Oh, really? Good luck with that. Because, again, people ask me all the time, Dave, what's the science? I go, I don't know. Yeah. I don't have a clue. I just don't.
It has to be mindset. All I know
is if you go out there.
Energy, mindset. Yeah.
It's a little bit of everything.
I think it has to be.
Now, if you look at your feet, when you're in a peak state, there's a lot of energy coming off your feet and your hands.
Yep.
Tons of energy. So I don't know, maybe it's some of the energy pushing back. You're not on the coals all that long. You're taking a step.
Right.
You're walking with purpose. You don't run ever, but you walk briskly is what I.
You think how long it takes, even say a woman with a curling iron just to touch her skin and how that burns, or touching a stove, it's so, whether it's going foot to foot really quick, you're still on those 1,000-degree coals. That's incredible.
Yep. Now, can you get burnt? The coals are 1,000 degrees. There's your answer. Now, can you get burnt bad? I've never known anybody to burn themselves bad. Can they get a hot spot on their foot? Sure. Yeah. You get a little blister. I call it a badge of honor. You get a kiss. Okay. But that's interesting. That only happens less than 10% of the time. Yeah, so 90% of the people, just like when I walked the first time, got no burns at all. Nothing.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know. I don't know what the magic is. I just know that the experience and what it does for you. And what it creates in your mind. Because if I go walk on coals at 1,000 degrees and not burn myself, what else can I do?
Yeah.
And once you do it, you can't undo it.
Which that next morning, as you said, you got 3,500 people. Now there's just that unity. It's like it strips away all a lot of those fears, people that maybe have social anxieties or, all those dumb little things that we all get caught in at times,
Why don't people get what they want in life?
Exactly.
There's a story they tell themselves, fear.
100%.
The fears we don't overcome become our limits.
So true.
Fear of success, fear of failure, fear of heights, fear of public speaking, fear. Fear's a liar.
Yeah, so true.
Now, fear's there to help keep you alive too. What I tell people is, look, fear's there to guide you.
Yeah.
Just don't let it become your jailer.
Yeah.
That's the distinction.
You've read the 4 Agreements, haven't you? The book.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I was listening to that again this morning. It's so much of that resonates with what we're talking about. It's just
absolutely 100%
BS that we bought into, the way we're programmed at such a young age. Don't stop. You can't do this, can't do that. And then just how we just evolved with those crazy stories. And then, it's nuts.
It is nuts. Well, where it went from there, 2014.
Okay.
Next thing I know, I'm being contacted and asked by Google to come do an event for them. They want to know, are you the Dave Albin, Tony Robbins? Yeah. Okay, what's up? Well, we've got an event in Mountain View for 148 executives, and we want to create a spectacular experience.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Well, what's that look like? Am I under any non-compete or contractual obligation? No. Dave Albin's a free agent. He can do whatever he wants. And so from there, next thing I know, I'm in Mountain View. Now, we ended up doing a glass walk instead of the Firewalk, only because they wanted to do it in the middle of the day. Dave Albin doesn't do Firewalks in the middle of the day. It's a safety issue. And they were like, cool, we'll do a glass walk. That sounds pretty scary too.
Had you done glass walks before?
What's that?
Had you done glass walks before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I was very experienced with the glass walk process.
I'd take fire over glass first.
I know people say that all the time. Like, holy crap, I've cut myself. That ain't fun.
Intense.
Walking on glass is pretty intense, and they got it too.
Yeah.
In fact, when I got to Google the night before the event, I was there, and the University of North Carolina had designed the curriculum for Google. So they were there. We're out to dinner. We're sitting down with everybody from Google and the university. And all of a sudden they go, Dave, listen, could we ask you a question? And I'm like, yeah, sure. What do you want to ask? And they said, well, we want to do something tomorrow, but we want to make sure it's okay with you. And I go, well, what do you want to do? They said, well, when you're in the green room, before we bring you out, we want to show like a short movie clip. I'm like, okay, what movie? And she goes, Die Hard. And I went, are you talking about where Bruce Willis runs across the broken glass?
Wow.
And she goes, that's exactly what we want to do. And I go, I love you people. You're my kind of peeps.
Great idea. That's cool.
Right? What a great idea. Yeah. And I said, yeah, absolutely. Run it. And she said, well, there's one other thing. I go, yeah. She goes, there's a song we want to play. I went, okay, what's that? She goes, the song by Annie Lennox, Walking on Broken Glass.
Wow.
And I went, oh my gosh, you guys, that's beautiful. Absolutely. By all means, let's do it.
That's cool.
So we did that. And we did the event. I came back the following year, did that. And that's when I realized that there was a huge marketplace for corporate America.
Jeez.
Every CEO, every entrepreneur, every business owner has the daunting task of keeping their people motivated.
Bingo. Yeah.
So what happens when you want to launch a new product? What happens when you got dissension going on? Like right now, more than ever.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Because, mask wearing, not mask wearing. Oh, I love Donald Trump. I hate Donald Trump. I got a vaccine. I got 7 boosters. Oh, you didn't? Oh, you're a horrible person. I mean, shut up. Stop.
Exactly.
Let me live my life. You live what it says in AA, live and let live. Right. So I'm taking that principle going, look, if I want to get a vaccine, I will. If I don't, I won't. It's none of your business. Stay out of my business.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stay out of yours. However, in a company, if all these people are going at each other like this, guess what that causes?
Yep.
Dissension. What does dissension cause? A drop in production. So when it's a drop in production, what does that cause?
Yeah.
Bottom line, it could cost company millions. So when companies come to me, I go, look, I'll fix it. Guaranteed, I'll fix it.
So cool.
You put me in, you give me your people for 3 hours. You let me take them through the board break experience, the Firewalk, and a couple of other proprietary processes that I have, and I'll bring them back together just like that. And so I'm a problem solver. I can fix it. And so today, corporate America, they realize that, right? They know. So after I was hired by Google, and I came back to Tony and said, Tony, I love you, but I'm retiring. And he kissed me on the cheek and said, go get him, Dave.
That's that's the way it should be. Yeah, that's cool.
Right, 19 years with him, almost 20. Yeah, he's like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Go get him, kid. You know, I remember him saying one thing to me. He said, you know, with great wisdom comes great responsibility.
Heard that many times out of his mouth. Yep.
Yeah, and of course, you know, he practiced what he preached there with me from the stage. Is like, okay. And I trained his team. I had everybody trained. He didn't need me anymore. He really didn't. Right. I had an amazing bunch of people that had been working with me for years. They knew what to do. And so the next thing I know, I'm at NASA.
Wow.
I've got astronauts sitting in the audience. Next thing Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, Microsoft, Heineken, Remax, Chick-fil-A, the Entrepreneur Organization. Next thing I know, I'm on, Steve Cloward's, life after addiction, right? The big time, brother. It just escalated from there, and it was all organic.
That is so cool.
So I've had the opportunity to change thousands and thousands and thousands of people's lives.
Jeez.
And what a beautiful thing.
No.
And so here I am. So Firewalk Productions was started in 2014. And, I've done it all. I do kids. I've done talks and events and like board break experiences for junior high schools. We've done everybody from the YMCA to Google and everybody in between.
Yeah.
Lots of, again, small companies. I do Chamber of Commerce events where they have leadership programs. And I like to work a lot with kids.
I bet that's just
from a benevolent and a philanthropic standpoint.
Yeah, that's got to be just rewarding to see that.
Well, they get asked too. Can kids firewalk? You better believe they can. They don't have the limiting beliefs you do as an adult.
You're still young. Yeah.
My daughter, first time she firewalked, Steve, she was 6 years old.
That's so incredible.
My son was 9.
That is so
Imagine taking a kid that age and walking them across fire. What do you think that does to their psyche?
No,
their self-worth, their self-confidence, their self-belief.
Yeah.
They go to school today and they get hammered.
Yeah.
Pass or fail, pass or fail, pass or fail. Oh my gosh, stop. Yeah. No wonder when I was in school, I know you can relate to this. Of course, you're not quite as old as I am, but we were number 1 in the world in education. Mm-hmm. Now we're what, 47th?
Yeah, maybe.
Something's not working, boys and girls. Pay attention.
Right. Yeah.
So these education, and now they want us to talk all this other crap that they're doing to kids and about, come on, stop. You're going to ruin this generation.
Yeah.
They've already got self-worth and self-esteem issues now.
Yeah.
You're killing these kids. Absolutely killing them.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I'm just the guy out here that goes, give them to me for a couple of hours. I'll show them what's really possible.
That is so great.
Put them in that arena. Give them to me. Because I'm coming from a place of love and connection. Yeah. There's nothing more exciting than walking a 8-year-old kid, an 11-year-old kid across that fire and then looking at their face after they do that. It's there.
No kidding.
It shows up. It shows up right there in the moment. Yeah. It's so powerful. So, give them to me.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
It's kind of like, we learned this slowly in AA, because what an AA did this to me. Because, in AA, you got the 12 steps. The 12 steps are there to put your life back together, to make amends and correct all the wrongdoings and really just design your life. You come in, you admit you've got a problem. You then admit, look, there's help out here. And then you turn your will and your life over, and then you make amends, and you look at your character defects and your shortcomings, and then you go into the maintenance steps, right, where you keep your side of the street clean, and you help other alcoholics achieve sobriety, because that's a sweet spot, right? I learned a long time ago in the personal development industry, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll always get what you want.
Amen.
And then you got the 12 traditions that bring it all together from the group and the interaction in terms of the members. And then in the middle, what do they have? The preamble. What's the preamble say? And I never forgot this. And this rings in my heart to this day, and it's carried over into my business. And that is, and it says, when anyone anywhere reaches out for the hand of AA, I want that hand to be there. And for that, I am responsible.
Yeah.
Whoa. Are you kidding me? Because what's interesting is that, the world of psychology and psychiatry and all these other people try to get all this stuff figured out, and they want to get paid. And you go to AA, it's free.
Yeah, exactly.
Put $1 in the basket, okay, to help the group, buy coffee and cookies.
Yeah.
But now they've got all these other groups, and I'm not about that, because what they don't teach is you have to become a great gatekeeper. When somebody walks in the door and they're new, their life's on the line.
Oh,
we know that, right? This ain't the Qantas Club. Right? This is not the Chamber of Commerce. That's all great. I love my Chamber of Commerces, but men and women's life's on the line. So I'm a gatekeeper, man, and I'm ready. And what's interesting, and I know, the founders of AA, Dr. Bob and Bill Wilson, talked a lot about this, that's what we're responsible to do. So that mindset that was created with me in AA has spilled over into my business, into the personal development world. And what a beautiful combination. Yeah. And so most people, you know what they need? I was just at my local chamber earlier this morning, and I was talking to, one of the gals over there, Kathleen, who I love and adore, all of them. And we were talking about some things that I'm going to help the chamber with. And I said, you know what, Kathleen, you know what it boils down to? Some people just need a little bit of encouragement.
It's no kidding.
Right. And so, and I also, want to talk to, suicide prevention and all that, because I was there.
Yeah.
I know what that's like. And, we learned that suicide is a permanent answer to a temporary problem, but it's deeper than that. Yeah. Right. It's sometimes they just need somebody to go, hey, you know what? I care. Let me help you walk through this, because I was there. I know what it's like to put a pistol in my mouth and then decide, you know what? If I pull that trigger, all right, I'm ending my life in a very self-centered way. Right. But I'm killing everyone else around me. Yeah. And that's the travesty, because we don't stop and think about that in the moment. Exactly. Yes. Right. Because if we could imagine our parents or our kids or our friends and family, standing around our casket, crying their eyes out, going, and they're taking the blame. Yeah. And like, they didn't reach out. Yes. So many people beat themselves up for that. And that's you had a little divine intervention to have the thoughts that you had when you were in that moment, to shift that and to have that. I talk about my addiction at every talk. I don't care who I'm, when I was at Google, I talked about it. NASA, I talked about it. I'm very transparent with all that. I want them to know. Yeah. Same here. I've never shied from it. It actually, to me, it gives us more power. It makes us, I call it being you're a vulnerable warrior. Yeah. Come show it. So what? Because you know what? It never fails. And you know this, Steve. When you go to a group like that and you tell them, because I'm telling them, look, I'm giving you permission to come to me if you need help, because almost everybody I know at some level has somebody out there that's suffering with alcoholism and drug addiction. And those people have no idea what to do. Oh, that's where I was. I had no clue. Right. Even if you're the dad of a kid that's an alcoholic, you don't know what to do. Yep. Or the vice versa. Maybe you're a kid and it's your dad's an alcoholic. You don't know what to do. Yeah. Come to us. Let us help you. We'll definitely get you, headed in the right direction, 100%. And it's been a big problem, and it's only going to get worse with the environment we're currently in, So COVID, we just need love and light in this world, COVID amplified all of that. Absolutely. Because they shut down the groups. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that was a big mistake. Huge. Yeah. I wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't have made it. If no kidding. If COVID had shut down the AA group and I didn't have that personal interaction, I'd have been back at home. Boom. Yep. The pain's got to stop. That's the thing about drugs and alcohol, is because it's so physically and emotional painful. So what was it that, it's obvious why you started drinking and the pain that you were dealing with and, that led to it. Other than AA and stuff, was there anything that you did? I mean, obviously, the Firewalk and the personal development,
Were those the things that really helped you let go of that?
Well,
Or
I had a
other
really
counseling or anything else that you did?
the members that there was some guys specifically
Uh-huh.
that I got really close with. John, Kevin, Randy, Ed. I mean, there was so many guys that I could sit here and talk about who I became really close with. And we did everything together. One of my buddies, I used to spend a great deal of time in his basement. And his wife and him were both in AA, and they fed me a lot. And Kevin was really close. He had 7 years on me when I got there. And we were sitting there one day, and he said, he had a guitar sitting over there. And I said, well, that's a Martin, right? He goes, yeah, how did you know? I go, I recognize the guitar. He goes, can you play? And I said, well, I don't know. And he went and got the guitar, and he said, you play that guitar. And I ripped off a bunch of chords. He goes, why didn't you tell me? And so the next thing you know, we had another friend, Randy, who played really well. And we started playing at open mics at AA meetings.
Oh, that's cool.
When AA get-togethers and picnics and everything, we formed a group called the Troubadours. And so, I started playing music together, and the bonding of that. So I replaced everything in my life, my friends, my play places, my play things. I knew I had to change everything about me.
Yeah.
And so I just allowed AA to be my guide. I didn't do anything. My sponsor told me, he goes, you don't make any decisions for the first year without including me. Stay out of relationships, heal yourself.
Exactly.
It's like, we know that, in an airplane, if something happens and the oxygen mask drops, what do?
Yeah.
We put the oxygen mask on us first, and then we help others, right?
Yeah.
So the same thing here.
Yeah,
same thing in life. You've got to help yourself first before you can help others. And again, if you help enough people get what they want in life, you'll always get what you want in life. It's a beautiful thing.
It's like a universal law, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's like Mother Teresa. I joke
way around it.
Mother Teresa was one of the most self-centered people on the planet. Why? Because she found love and connection at such a high level by going into, the parts of the world where death was just dominant, and bringing love and hope to people that were in total despair. Well, she got high off of that. I know that. I've done it too.
Yeah.
When you help somebody walk the fire or turn their life around and get them off drugs and alcohol and into a 12-step program. And I mean, there's nothing more
no better drug. There's no better drug than that.
There's no better drug than that. And and I try to get people fully associated to that. So again, like for a CEO though, to hire me to come do a firewalk, it's a little gutsy. It takes a pair of what to do that. Yeah. But here's the thing. They're like, well, how safe is it? I've had to deal with some of their corporate attorneys. I'm like, well, have you ever taken your family to the beach or to a lake or to the pool and got them sunburned? Yeah. Well, guess what? That's 100 times more dangerous than any firewalk you'll ever do with me. Yeah. Do your kids play football? Do they play baseball? Do they play soccer? I got news for you. That's 1,000 times more dangerous. They wrestle? I mean, whatever. Almost any sport out there for a kid is much more dangerous than any firewalk you'll ever do with me. The worst thing you can happen with me is get a small blister on your foot. That's it. I mean, it sounds really dangerous, but it's not. Because, when I do things at our company, we do things 3 ways. They're safe, they're safer, and then they're safest. And so I'm all about, let it be easy.
Yeah.
And once they get them there, look, trust the process. You're going to have to trust, period.
Yeah.
And then once you do that, then just let the fire create that magical experience.
What an incredible story, man. What happened to your parents when they started drinking again? Did they ever get help or?
Yeah, both of my parents, well, they smoked too. They smoked very heavily. Oh, okay. So I want to thank Philip Morris for killing my parents.
Yeah.
And all the other tobacco companies out there, because that's really something that's interesting in America. Really, America. Exactly. And now we got vapes, and now we got tobacco. And and you're going to tell me what to do with my life? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So we know what's going on with that. And then, of course, there's all the other things out there, the beverage companies, and, you know, they were drinking all that crap back then. All those soft drinks that are full of sugar and chemicals. And hell, back then Coke had Coke in it. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so I'm an advocate for all that. Don't try to blow sunshine up my ass. If you're one of those companies and you do that and you're help destroying this country, you're going to fall.
Yeah, more of it's definitely being shown, and it's coming.
Yeah, it is. Your days are numbered. It's going to happen. So yes, I lost both of my parents to an early death because of cancer and alcohol and cigarettes. My biological mother lived longer. She didn't drink. She didn't smoke, and she lived to be older. And in fact, you know, what's interesting is when my parents told me that they weren't my parents, they said, you know, your mother is your Aunt Dean.
Oh, wow.
And I remember going,
wow.
What? And I remember thinking, I don't even like her.
Wow.
And you know why I didn't like her, Steve? Is because she was always touching me. And not in an inappropriate way.
Well, yeah, because you were her biological
I was her son,
kid.
so she wanted to hug me and hold me.
Totally
and
makes
be
sense.
around me and take me places and do things.
Jeez.
And so I made a great relationship. In fact, in the last couple of years of her life, we had a beautiful farm in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia back then. And I brought her to the farm, and she lived out her final days with me and her grandkids, which was a wonderful thing for her.
That's neat. Yeah.
She had never left really. She had really left Southern California. She lived there most of her life. She lived in a trailer in a mobile home park.
Wow.
And, you know, she was okay. She had some retirement from McDonnell Douglas and some, you know, Social Security. So she was okay.
Right.
And she was okay with that because she was a child of the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Right. So back then you didn't throw anything away. You fixed it or you didn't have it.
Yeah, as tough as that, is, I have a lot of respect for what she did, because if, she knew she couldn't take we had 4 biological boys, and my daughter's out in the other room working. She's going on 19. We adopted her, and it was just the most selfless thing that these mothers do, even though it's
hard.
I don't know how that's got to be so hard, but that shows you how deep that love is, to just realize and admit that, hey, I can't do what's needed for this child, and I'm willing to let him go. That just break your heart, man.
It's the ultimate act of love when it's
absolutely
comes from that place.
Yeah.
It's one thing to get rid of the kid when you don't want it. I'm not talking.
Totally different.
She wanted me.
Yeah.
Right. She did.
Yeah.
And she knew what was best for me.
Because
again, she had 2 other boys. She's a server in a hotel. She didn't have the money. She couldn't feed us, and she knew it. Yeah. And so, I will be forever grateful to my biological mom, to Dean, for that. In fact, when my daughter was born, we named her Virginia Dean Albin. And Virginia because she was born in Virginia. Virginia because her grandmother on her mother's side is named Virginia. Her middle name is Dean, which was my biological mother's name. And then I called her Vinny for short, which was the mother who raised me's name.
Oh my heck, that's cool.
Right. So we covered all the grandmothers with cool. That. It's funny too, because one of her best friends came along, Annie, and took her first name and her last name and switched them. And so most of her friends and a lot of people know her as Avie today. And again, really? Avie, and she just gave birth to my granddaughter on Friday. So Charlotte Ray was born this last Friday, born at 4:32. So this is the second grandchild I have. My daughter's given me 2 grandkids. My grandson, thank you. My cousin, my grandson, Caden, and then now my granddaughter, Charlotte Ray. So
that is so cool. You're at 2. I'm at 2 as well. In fact, my first will be 1 on the 15th. So what, 4 days? So
we were We were talking before the podcast started, and we were joking with each other. Yeah, we don't know how great grandkids were. We would have had them first, right?
That's right.
Because we get to have them, right? We get to play with them and have them and get them all sugared up, and then send them home.
Yeah, my dad used to say that. He said, "Man, the best part of grandkids is, man, you get just what you said, and then you just send them home."
Yeah,
it's like what a deal.
You're out of here.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Man, this has been fantastic, Dave. I really appreciate your time. Your story is incredible. And where can people reach out to, find you, connect to you?
Yeah, sure. Of course. So if they want to hire us to come in and create something spectacular for them, they can go straight to our website, which is firewalkadventures.com. Now, something else that I do what's called the Dave Albin Firewalk Academy, where people can send their people to us and we'll train them. And then those people can go back into their respective companies and, facilitate firewalks and glass walks and board breaks and aero breaks and rebar bending and a whole bunch of things that we teach at the academy.
Cool.
My academy is coming up in October. And so you can go to our website and click on the Dave Albin Firewalk Academy. We do that event invitation only because it's not for everybody. We do need to interview and make sure it's a good fit. And if it is, then you come in, you spend about a week with me, and we train you with all that as well. So again, that can be found on the website, www.firewalkadventures.com.
Fantastic. And I'll have all that in the show notes as well. So
cool.
Man, is there any parting words that you'd like to leave?
Sure. Stop looking for heroes and be one.
Bingo. I love it. Well, thanks again, Dave. This has been just magical, and I look forward to staying in touch, and I'd love to bring you back down the road. And if you'd be open to that, that'd be great.
I'd be open to that. And I want to say something to you personally, Steve, and that is what you're doing here with the life after addiction thing is huge. So kudos to you for that. And again, if I can come back and be part of that or support that, I'm all in, brother. Great job.
Awesome. I appreciate that a lot. Look forward to it.
My pleasure.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too. We'll see you next time.